Well, hello everyone. We are here today with another beautiful Black woman on our Women of Color in Business platform, here to share great stories and information with you about the unique entrepreneur journey that we travel as Black women. So I'm going to begin by allowing her to introduce herself and her business.
Hello, Lynette. Thank you so much for the invitation. It is amazing to be here. So, for the audience, my name is Monique Hayward, and I have a multifaceted career, actually. I'm a marketer, so a marketing executive, an author, an entrepreneur, a public speaker, and I've had over the last 25 plus years now a career that has spanned corporate America. So primarily in high technology. I've worked for Tektronix, I've worked for Intel, I've worked for Microsoft, and I'm currently just wrapping up a gig with a startup company as the chief marketing officer for that company. And then alongside my corporate career, Lynette, I
Yeah.
actually have an entrepreneurial career. And so I started a restaurant business back in 2004,
Mhm.
and then that was like my first step into kind of owning my own business, and we can talk about the inspiration around that and the story. From there, I was a partner in a software company when iPhone apps were hot back in the day.
Ah,
Yes, and then I sold my interest in that to my partner at the time, and then a few years afterwards, I started another food business, and so this time I actually started a personal chef company with a partner of mine. His name is Brian Driscoll. He's down in Phoenix, Arizona.
okay.
And we have Driscoll Cuisine and Cocktail Concepts. And then just recently, last year, we bought a residential property so that we could go into the short-term rental, vacation rental business. And so now we have Phoenix's first chef-driven, hospitality-forward B&B. And so
Yes.
that's been really good too. So that's it in a nutshell.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that you have such a diverse breadth of experience and that you've obviously taken risks and you've invested your skills and your knowledge into things that inspire you.
Yeah, and
So
not
I
the least of
love
which my
that.
money. Some days.
So let's talk about, so all of that kind of excites me. All of that is very interesting to me. But let's start with what inspired you to open your first restaurant? Because it seems like your main background was marketing for
That's
tech
right.
companies. And from there, you decided, hey, I'm going to open a restaurant. So
I
what
know
happened there, Monique?
what happened there. Yeah, no, yeah, that was crazy. So I was at the time in my mid 30s, and I was just kind of in that middle management, kind of day-to-day slog of being a marketing and communications manager for high technology company. I was at Intel at the time, and I was like, I was kind of looking for something that was going to give me more energy and give me more immediacy around results that I could actually attribute to me and my own
Mm,
handiwork, if you will.
yes.
Also, I mean, I happen to be a food enthusiast,
Ah,
and I cook and that kind of stuff. I always go out to dinner and and try new restaurants and try new things. And so I thought a restaurant business would be aligned with a lot of my personal interests as well. And so yeah, so I put together the business plan, and I did everything from scratch. I
oh,
raised the money.
wow.
I got it from friends and family,
Ah,
and next thing I knew, I had a place that was called Dessert Noir Cafe and Bar. And so think of it as like the Cheesecake Factory, but on a much smaller, more intimate, handcrafted local scale. And so my whole idea was for it to be a place where you could go for dessert and drinks.
Uh-huh.
And I was located right next to a movie theater. And so you could
Oh.
come to us, before the movie and have, happy hour or dinner or whatever. And then you can come back after the movie to have, dessert and cocktails and that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And so it was a good concept and it took off. The first couple of years were great. The last couple of years were a little bit of a struggle
Okay.
because I ran into the Great Recession of 2008, 2009, and I had a really hard time of it because a lot of small businesses, back in that time, really caught the front end of that crisis and experienced firsthand what was going on in the market with the housing market. You might remember back
Yes,
at that
yes.
time. I remember having a conversation with my landlord at the time, Lynette, where I said to to my leasing agent at my landlord's office, I said, there's something going on here. Right?
Ah,
I was like, I am losing, a good segment of my customer base. I'm not losing my loyal customers, but those people who are kind of on the edge, they're just gone. Something is happening. They're just dropping out. And sure enough, what was going on was that subprime mortgages were
yeah.
having an impact on people. People were starting to lose their jobs. The real estate market was getting crazy, and it was just, it was a tough, tough time. And so, but yeah, I managed to hold on for about 4.5 years, which is a
Okay.
lifetime in a restaurant
It
business. If
is.
any of your listeners have have any experience with restaurant business, you know that they have some of the highest failure rates. And if a restaurant's open 3, 4, 5 years, that's a lifetime
Yes.
into this business. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, and it was a good experience. I learned a lot. I think one of the things that I want to impress upon the audience with this story about owning a restaurant business is that it's the kind of business that you learn everything, right? I mean, it presents all kinds of challenges and all kinds of opportunities for you to stretch yourself as a business owner. So
Um,
you have the whole customer experience. You
right.
have dealing with suppliers for all of the things that you need to operate the business. You have employees. You
Right.
have, like I said, landlords, and because 9 times out of 10 you're leasing space from in a commercial establishment. You've got marketing that you need to do. You got to get the word out, right? I mean,
Right.
you've got to figure out how you're going to attract those customers, how you're going to get those butts in those seats, right? Because
Yes.
they're yeah, and it's also a single digit margin business. And so, every dollar counts. And,
Wow.
you start to get really good at, prioritizing where you're going to invest your next, dollar in a business like that. So it was a great training ground for me as an
Mm.
entrepreneur to start with a restaurant business and then sort of decide down the road that I wanted something a little less stressful.
Right. That is so interesting. I love the point you make that it stretches you as a business owner because you're right. It's one of those businesses that you can't start as a solopreneur and do it on your own. You have to have employees, right?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
have to have somewhere to do a restaurant. You have to have a landscape to do this. And there are just certain things
Right.
you have to have that in a traditional solopreneur journey, you don't get all that experience at once, right? You
Right.
get to start off one way and then kind of grow, add employees and maybe then add a storefront in. But you hit the ground running with all of
No, I
that.
hit the ground running. Yeah, no, I had a
Yeah.
staff of 20 people when I started
Oh
my
wow.
restaurant business, and
Oh
yeah, no,
wow.
it was crazy, definitely. In fact, it's so funny because that whole experience, I actually wrote my first book out of it,
Okay.
and my first book was called Divas Doing Business: What the
Okay.
Guidebooks Don't Tell You About Being a Woman Entrepreneur. And a lot of it was
Oh,
born out of that, oh my goodness, I'm running this restaurant business and I'm just kind of making it up as I go. I
right.
wasn't getting a lot of good advice and counsel at the time that I could go to for sources,
Uh-huh.
for other people who had been experiencing what I
Yeah.
was experiencing from from the point of view of an African American woman living in Beaverton, Oregon,
Yes.
right? Like, hey, I need some sisterhood out here, right? And
Yes.
so I finally just decided that after not being able to get everything in all one place, I just wrote the book myself.
I hear
I
you.
said, you know what? I need to share this knowledge with, other women who are
Yes.
similarly placed and trying to
Yes.
figure out how to make their way as
Yes.
entrepreneurs, especially if you're doing it as, a second career or a side
Yes.
hustle. Yeah, you're trying
Exactly.
to, do your day job plus do a business. It takes some challenge, or that takes some balance, and it is a challenge.
Yes. Definitely, I love that. That's speaks to my heart and my spirit too, because that's why I do what I do. Because starting out as an entrepreneur, I was like, where are the people? Where are my people to help me? Where are, the Black women who've been where I'm trying to go? Where can I find that I'm not just the only one going through all of these
Yeah.
things? So, and to your point, you said, I struggled when I got started. So let me write a book and leave some breadcrumbs for the next woman who wants to do this, right? They don't have to
Yeah.
travel and make all my mistakes and work blindly. They can have a roadmap. That's beautiful. I love that.
Yes,
Amazing.
definitely.
So from there, you went to is from that point is was the next step when you started your
Yeah,
partnership in the software
I was in
business?
a startup that was focused on software, so mobile phone apps. Like I said, iPhone apps when that was hot back in the day, and that was a lesson in partnership. So I started my restaurant business. I was kind of the owner operator, and like I said, I had a team of employees who
Right.
were the experts, if you will, in hospitality and executing the restaurant platform for me. But then when I did this software company, I um, I went in with a partner, and then so that actually that gave me some interesting lessons learned. First of all, if you are in a partnership with someone else, and I've learned this with my current partnership as well, is that you've got to be absolutely clear about being on the same page about everything when it comes to running the business.
Uh-huh.
Right? Yeah. And you got to be clear about roles and responsibilities. I think that in my first partnership, my original business partner and I uh, did not spend enough time with each other before we decided to start the business together, even though we had worked together at the same company and we had common projects that we worked on. We had a common network of folks who we knew. We spent a fair number of hours working on different things, traveling to different events and that kind of stuff. But we had never really worked side by side, hand in hand on one particular difficult project.
Got it.
So I think that when I look back on that experience, I wish that I had spent more time with him before deciding that we were going to be in business together and that I was going to ask far more questions than I did about how he works.
Got you.
Yeah, because, I mean, and that's the beauty of a partnership, right? A lot of times, it's a force multiplier, and that's what you want to get out of it, right? You want to get, kind of that 1 + 1 is greater than two aspect
Exactly.
of a partnership. And then, but the other thing that you want, Lynette, in a partnership is for people to kind of stay in their lane. you know, Stay in your lane. So I'm a marketing expert. I'm a communications expert. I'm a storyteller. I do all of those kinds of things. I'm a megaphone marketer is basically how I describe, my skill set and my areas of expertise. And
Okay.
then my partner at the time in this software company was the engineer, right?
Okay.
But he had way too much to advise me on when it came to the marketing side.
Right.
And I totally get the collaboration and the camaraderie and the spirit of, hey, if you have an idea, I don't have a monopoly on marketing. But at the same time, uh, I'm the expert for a reason, right?
Yes,
And I don't
exactly.
need you micromanaging me because I'm not telling you how to write the code.
There you
You
go.
know?
There you go. And
And
it's also inefficient too. I
yes,
mean,
it's
that's
inefficient.
yeah, it kind of negates the best benefit of a partnership,
Right.
that you have two pros and together you can build something totally different that you couldn't do alone. So if the plus is that not one person is great at everything. The plus is
Right.
that you're good over here and I'm good over here. So let's bring it, we need each other for this. So
Yeah.
definitely. So wonderful
Yeah,
lessons
exactly.
learned.
Yes, lessons learned. And then I took those lessons into my current partnership.
Got it.
And what's really brilliant about my current business partner in the personal chef and vacation retreat business is that he is the quintessential hospitality expert.
Ah,
He has worked in all aspects of a restaurant business. He's very service oriented. He can anticipate your needs before you even think about what you think you might want. Right? I mean, he's really that good at delivering fantastic, memorable experiences for our clients. He is not as comfortable on the back end of things, right? So
ah,
doing the marketing, like I said, that's my area of expertise, but just actually running the business.
right.
So making sure that it's financially sound, making sure that bills get paid, these kinds
Yes,
of things, making sure that we have the operational excellence that we need to have in order for the business to have a good strong foundation. And then sometimes he and I joke about this because we do have clear separation, and very rarely do we drift into each other's lane. And we actually made a pact that if we do need to consult with each other on our areas of expertise, that we ask for an invitation into the space.
got you.
Right? It's like, hey,
Got
hey,
you.
I'm struggling with this particular issue, or hey, I could use an extra hand on this menu proposal that we've gotten from one of our chefs. He's um, suggested, 3 or 4 different menu items. We need to choose one. Can you take a look at it and see what you think? Because I trust your judgment, as someone who, is a fine dining consumer, right? That's the kind of stuff where it's like, hey, invite me in and then I can help. Whereas I don't impose my will and say,
Right,
hey,
right.
I'm trying to tell you how to do your job. Like, no, that's just not, I've never been a micromanager and I don't like being micromanaged myself. So,
Yeah, yeah.
it's I trust people inherently to do the right thing and to bring their expertise and their knowledge and their skill to bear so that we can get to the best possible outcome. Because if like you were just saying, right? I mean, not everybody knows everything. Like
Right.
you got to let people be the expert where they can lean in and be the expert.
Yes. Sounds wonderful. I love that. I love that. One, you took the knowledge and experience from your previous partnership and you said, okay, we're going to start this one out differently. So you
Oh yeah.
utilized that, right? So you turned that experience into a very big plus, right? Now I know the questions I need to be asking. Now we're going
Yes.
to sit down and we're going to discuss this and lay this out so that this time around everything works differently.
Right. And
And
then the other thing that when you actually have that agreement and you can come together and have really difficult, even Lynette, conversations
uh-huh,
about the business, about what it is that we need to invest in, where do we need to prioritize, how can we be successful, how do we make more money, and so that those kinds of questions and that kind of give and take is only possible if the foundation is strong and that there's a relationship that's built on trust, that's built on truth, that's built on transparency,
yes.
right? And mutual respect for each other as human beings and for each other as professionals. We would never have invested, in buying real estate in Phoenix, Arizona,
Uh-huh.
if we didn't have that kind of trust in each other to make that big of an investment in our business.
Got you.
So yeah, I mean, you have to make sure that that foundation is set and that it is strong. because something like a huge decision to move the business forward with a big asset like that could be a
Yes.
make or break, right?
Right, right. It's
Yeah.
like you have to have that trust there. So with this partner, how was your relationship built? How did you know each other before you formed the partnership?
It's a really good question. So while I was still working at Intel, I live in Portland, Oregon. So
Okay.
actually Beaverton, which is a suburb of Portland, and I was on vacation in Arizona. So I know that wellness is a huge part of what you
Yeah,
advocate,
yeah.
and I'm sure that you are familiar with a lovely spa in Tucson, Arizona called Mirabal.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, so Mirabal, it's one of the top spas, one of the top destination spas in the country. It's perennially on, Oprah's list of the top, places to go,
Mhm.
for spas. And so I've been going there for 20 plus years. And in
Okay.
fact, the first time I went, I took my mother. And
Mm.
um, and my mom and I went on this, mother-daughter package special that they were running. And I'll tell you, just as a side
Mhm.
story, when my mom came out of her first massage
Uh-huh.
out of the spa,
Uh-huh.
she looked at me and she looked around and she said, "This is why rich people do this." So it's a magical place. And so,
Yes.
yeah, so I was there in March of 2019. I was celebrating my birthday,
Okay.
and I was there for a few days and decided that I was going to go to Phoenix from Tucson for a couple of days because a lot of times I would just be in Phoenix on business. I never really spent a lot of time as a tourist or on personal time in Phoenix. And so I just added on a couple of days. And so I was um, staying at a hotel in Scottsdale, and I had a dinner reservation at a restaurant that fell through. And I wound up just walking around Old Town Scottsdale. It was a Wednesday night, and I roll up into this restaurant that looked like it was jumping, and there was a seat at the bar. So I sat there.
Uh-huh.
And then I noticed that there was this guy there who was about my age, and he was Lynette hustling more than anybody else in the place. And
Ah,
I just kept looking at him and looking at him like, God, because I used to own a restaurant, right? And because I'm usually
right.
pretty in tune and pretty aware
Right.
of, kind of the restaurant environment and how things are working. Because some parts of it, honestly, I'll tell you, just between you and me and
Uh-huh.
everybody who's listening, I
Yes.
do miss it sometimes, you know. But most of the time I don't. But there are
Okay.
parts of it that I do miss. And so
Uh-huh.
I was just kind of in tune and just kind of watching. And I noticed that he was really helping other people out. He was, helping out in sections that weren't even his section. He
Ah,
kept coming by the bar and like turning the bar stools in a certain direction, right, to make sure that they were in line. I mean, so I was just making all these mental notes while I was there having my dinner, and as I was getting ready to leave, I caught his eye, and we met outside to because I was like, hey, I wanted to kind of introduce myself and have that conversation, and I complimented him. I said, hey, my name is Monique Hayward, and I am not stalking you. You don't know me because you know how sometimes when if
right.
you approach strangers that you kind of like, do I know you from somewhere or why are you? It had the potential to be that, and it was like, no, you don't know me for real. I just wanted to compliment you on the amazing service that you provided tonight. I'm a former restaurant owner, and I know a good hustle when I see it in a restaurant business. And so he was like, wow, like for real? I mean, who does that? I mean, who actually compliments the people,
Right.
who are working in the restaurant, much less people who didn't actually serve them directly? He wasn't my server, right?
Right.
And so then we struck up a conversation, and he was telling me about himself and his life and his ambition, his career, and so we just started having that conversation as two people who were in their late 40s, still trying to figure stuff out.
Uh-huh.
And so he told me about this ambition, Lynette, that he had to be a personal chef. And he
Hmm.
told me a story about a woman who he knew who her husband was serving overseas in the military and he was coming home. And she had asked my partner, his name is Brian, asked him to do dinner for two for them at their house as a surprise celebration for his arrival coming back home. And
Oh,
so when he organized all of that for them, the look on the husband's face when he showed up and saw, this beautiful setting, everything laid out. His wife, of course, just, radiant,
yes.
in her dress, right? Looking at Brian in his, chef attire, and he was just blown away. And so Brian filed that moment in the back of his mind and said, one of these days, if I ever get the opportunity, I want to do this for more people. I want to
Wow.
have that moment be a business, right? I want to
Yes.
create a business around moments like that. And so when he
Mm.
told me that story, I was like, okay. So I went back to Portland
Uh-huh.
and I started doing some research, as I'm apt to do because,
Uh-huh.
I'm a little bit nerdy that way. And I started to really investigate what the personal chef opportunity was in the Phoenix area. And I said, okay, you know what? I think that this actually is a good opportunity. And so I flew back down to Phoenix with a draft of a business plan. And we met at a place for dinner and we talked about it, we reviewed it. And then very shortly thereafter, we had an LLC formed. And then we started the business in late 2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And so this
amazing.
business, Lynette, girl, it survived the pandemic. It
Yeah.
survived, like I said, buying real estate. It's like,
Uh-huh.
so, lots of, big shifts and big challenges that we've had to navigate with this company, but we've managed to figure it out.
Nice. I love that. So now you have a location that
Yes, so the place is in Phoenix. Yes, it's called we call it the Concept.
uh-huh.
And it's in North Phoenix in a neighborhood called Moon Valley. For those of you who are familiar with the Phoenix area,
Yeah.
when you come to this place, you won't even think that you're in Phoenix, right? I mean, the landscape is very different from what you normally associate with that desert,
Right,
you know,
right.
that desert environment that you tend to kind of associate with the Phoenix area. We completely remodeled the place. When we bought it in May of 2023, we picked it up at an auction. It wasn't a distressed property, but the woman who was selling it just basically wanted to unload it because she had her husband had died of a terminal illness, and I totally get where she was coming from, right? It was
Right,
like, hey, you know what? I got to get rid of this house. I got bigger priorities. My husband died. I'm
right,
moving on.
right.
And so she decided to hire an auctioneer to auction it off. And so we picked it up that way. And but it needed a lot of work. And so it took us several months to get it ready to be rented out. And so it's great because we actually opened it up in March of this year,
Uh-huh.
and we had a really good start. I mean, it's a hosted experience, and that's what makes it special.
Yeah.
So again, like I was saying, Brian is a hospitality expert, and when you come to our house, you feel like you're at home.
Ah,
And I mean, he wants you to feel like you're at home. He is your on-site concierge, and
mhm.
you can interact with him as little or as much as you want. And he is there to make the experience amazing for you. You can book our personal chef business. You can do cocktail classes. You can do cooking classes. You can do all of these kinds of things
Ah.
as well as part of the experience. And so you remember when Airbnb first launched,
Yes. Uh-huh.
yeah, like 10 years ago now,
Uh-huh.
and how the whole original conceit, if you will, around Airbnb was that you were going to rent a room at Lynette's house, and that you would get to know Lynette because she's a local expert on her neighborhood, on her community, her city, right? And she
Right.
would be able to guide you, and then you would have like these amazing human connections. Well, Airbnb and a lot of short-term rental companies have drifted away from that original purpose around connecting people to people through sharing of spaces. And
Right.
so what we're trying to do is kind of bring a little bit of that back with
Ah,
like a true B&B experience.
right.
Brian again is a chef, and so he cooks you breakfast every morning
Yes.
that you're there, right?
Yes.
So Yeah,
I'm already
and we had,
there.
oh yeah, I know, right? You're already on vacation, which is
Yes.
great. Yes, and
Talking to
anybody who wants
Brian.
to stay, yes, holler at me because I'm sure you'll
Yes.
get all my socials and all this stuff. Holler at me. I'll give you the friends and family discount if you say that you heard me on the Women of Color in Business podcast.
Okay. All right, guys, take note.
That's
Seems
right.
like a
Take some notes. And
yes.
Phoenix is lovely this time of year.
Nice. That's such a beautiful concept. When I first read about that concept, I was like, they must have been listening to my dreams because that's like a dream for me to be on vacation and have a personal chef to cook for you every day. And then when you listed the classes, that's
Yeah,
even more fun because now, especially if you're there with the group, you don't have to go out and find something to do. It's all
precisely.
there, right?
Yeah,
You can just book a list of activities right there, and it's so convenient, and it's so much more bonding you get to do because you're not traveling back and forth somewhere, coming back. You just wake up and you're at home, and at a certain time, you enjoy these events together and you get to
yeah.
know the person who's providing the classes, who's cooking your food, and you build relationships. So it sounds like so much fun. I love that concept. I
That's
could
great.
just,
Lynette, are you my marketing person? Because
yeah,
that's exactly what I'm trying
you need to expand because we need one in Florida. So
to do. It's awesome. That is
yeah,
so awesome. Yeah, when we first launched the business, we had the personal chef piece, and then, like I said, we added on the real estate a few years later. And me, of course, being the marketer in the partnership, I imagined that you would position Driscoll Cuisine and Cocktail Concepts as your home is your new favorite restaurant.
oh,
And for the reasons that you described, right? Especially if you're traveling and you're with a group of people,
yeah,
restaurant reservations are a hassle,
yeah,
right?
yes,
Um, and then, you've got to accommodate, especially if you're in a bigger group, like, 6, 7, 8 people, that's tough to get everybody aligned around what kind of food you want, what kind, where should
exactly,
we go? How much is it going to
exactly.
cost? And,
Uh-huh.
and then the getting back and forth. And then
Yeah,
you need a recommendation. Okay, well, what if the place is not on point that night? And then you have bad service or you have a bad, experience or whatever. Whereas, when you hire a personal chef, all of that is just eliminated. It's because
yes.
it's right there for you. In fact, what Brian likes to tell our clients is that you can even show up in your pajamas, at the table, and we would be just fine.
Yes, that's so true. And that's
Yeah.
another point too. You're on vacation. You want to be relaxed.
Yes, you want to be
You know,
relaxed. You don't want to be all ratcheted up, thinking,
right.
oh gosh, I gotta get an Uber and I gotta get over there and I gotta, or I gotta rent the
Exactly.
car and I gotta do this. And then, if you wanted to enjoy a cocktail or two, right? I mean, a lot of people are concerned, rightfully so, with potentially getting pulled over for drinking and driving. You
Right.
don't want to put yourself at that kind of risk.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right at
So
home. I
yes, you're right at
love
home.
it.
So your home is your new favorite restaurant.
Yes, I love that concept. I love that tagline too. That's wonderful. Wonderful. So
Awesome.
with all of this that you've experienced, your experience, the knowledge that you have, you wrote, you wrote the one book. Did you have any other writings in mind?
Yeah. So the first book I wrote, like I said, was born out of my experience with my restaurant business. My second book is called Get Your Hustle On. It's not just about a job, but building a rewarding career. And that was born out of my experience as a senior leader in corporate America and being, one of the only, as we all have had experience with whether you are, as we were talking about before we started recording, right, like
Yeah.
just running your own business, where is everybody who is like me, right,
Right.
who
Right.
is having this experience? um when I was in my corporate jobs, I was often the only, right?
Uh-huh.
So when I was at Intel, when I got to be a senior enough leader to be in the executive ranks, I was at one point the most senior African American woman in marketing at the company. And it was a
Mm.
company of 100,000 people. And
Oh,
I would
wow.
always think like, wow, how am I the only one? That just does not make any sense. And
Yeah.
so people would seek me out all the time,
Hmm.
right? Because because I'm the one.
Right.
So, and I found myself really advising, particularly young women and young men of color who were having a hard time navigating in corporate America. And a lot of the same themes would come up over and over again. And
Mm.
so I took a lot of that wisdom and knowledge and school of hard knocks
Right,
kind of
right.
wisdom and and started road testing it on different audiences and smaller group sessions, and then kind of expanded that out to workshops and then to bigger stages, and eventually said, you know what, this is starting to gain some momentum, let me go ahead and put this down again in a book. And so the book really focuses on what I call the 5 C's, and this is
Okay.
also apropos for you as an entrepreneur as well,
Uh-huh.
because when you're thinking about how to navigate the challenges of being an entrepreneur, as well as how you're going to navigate in a corporate career, there are a lot of similarities in terms of the things that you're going to be dealing with and the challenges that you're going to face. And so the first thing in this framework of the 5 C's is competence.
Mm.
So that's the foundation that you build everything on top of, because as you know, and I know, unless you know how to do something, you're kind of you're kind of worthless.
Yes.
Yeah, there's kind of nothing else. And one of the things that I found myself advising, especially young entrepreneurs or young, corporate professionals, was that they always sort of led with this passion kind of argument, or this, oh, I'm so passionate about this, that, or the other, or man, I'm really interested in this, and this. And like, so I would try to wrap that conversation back around, Lynette, to, okay, that's fantastic, but what is it that you actually know how to do?
Mm.
Right? What are your skills? What are your experiences?
Right,
What's your knowledge? What's your expertise? What did you go to school for and pay money to get a degree for? Like
right.
these kinds of things, right? What are the projects? What are the plans? What are the things that you are working on that prove to someone that you actually have what it takes to run a business, to be a professional, to have that skill set that you are investing in. So the foundation of it is competence. Then
Okay.
on top of competence, you've got 4 C's that you're building as you are moving along in your entrepreneurial journey or in your corporate journey, or both.
Uh-huh.
So the first one is cachet. That's your personal brand. And you know all about this,
Yes.
right? Who are you and why should anybody care? Okay.
Mm.
So you got to be investing in, building that credibility, building that reputation, because that helps you with the second C, your communication. That's your story.
Mm.
So you and I could have totally had this conversation in terms of, oh yeah, Monique, could tell me about your career journey, and give me the timeline and give the like. No, what we've been doing is sharing stories back and forth,
Right.
right? And
Exactly.
and that's what really resonates with people. That's what they
Uh-huh.
want to hear. That's why they're tuned into this podcast. They didn't
Exactly.
they didn't hear they didn't tune in to hear me read my resume. They
Right.
want to know, yeah, they want to hear insightful questions from Lynette,
Uh-huh.
and they want Monique Hayward to sound like she's got some good sense.
Yes.
So that's communication, that's storytelling.
Hey.
Then the next C is connections. That's your network,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who is in your network right now who is helping you get what it is that you are trying to get done? Right?
Mm.
And I think a lot of times what happens, especially we as women, and especially we as women of color, we don't know how to 86 some folk.
Uh,
You
say that
know,
again. Say it
yeah, we
again.
don't know how to 86 some folk.
No.
And if you're not familiar with the term 86, that means like you've got to go. That's like it's
Yes.
out, it's done, it's time
Yes.
to move on.
Uh-huh.
And I encourage you that for the listeners who are struggling with, the people who are really in your corner who can help you at this point in your journey, you've got to be thinking about the purpose that they serve and the purpose that you are trying to execute against, and line up your network accordingly. because not everybody is in your network to help you do what you need to do. You've got to really carefully curate. I hate to use the overused word curate, but
Mm-hmm.
carefully curate the
Uh-huh.
people who are in your network so that they are helping you get to the next thing that you're trying to accomplish. And
Ah,
then the last piece of it is coaches. Those are your sponsors, your mentors, your role models, the people who will sit you down and review your plans, give you insight, give you feedback, help you with making sure that when you show up with your A game, and they hold you accountable for showing up with your A game. And these are also the people, if you get backed into a corner, they're the ones you call. Right.
oh,
When I was running my restaurant business, I had a running list of the people who I could call for various aspects of the operation, who I could call for strategy, who I could call for issues with suppliers, who could I call for issues with landlords, who could I call for bouncing ideas around on marketing. Who could I call if I needed to get $5,000 overnight? Who could I call for $10,000 in 2 days? Who could I call for $25,000 in a week?
oh,
I
wow.
had I had that list.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Those are the people who are invested in you and your success. Everybody should have a list like that.
Yeah,
Who are the people who are going to come and help you push or shove, right?
right,
Yeah.
right. I love those five C's, and I like that you started out with these five C's being related to a career because that is very necessary when you think about going into a career. Usually, to your point, you think about, oh, what am I interested in? What am I excited about? What am I passionate about? As opposed to what are my skills? What can I
Mhm.
really do well and better than most people, right? So let's
Yeah.
start there with the foundation. And then you said have your own brand. I mean,
Yes.
who usually starting a career thinks about they need to have a brand. I need to define what my brand is in my
Right.
career. So that's very,
Yeah, I
very,
think most people are misled into thinking that the work will just speak for itself. The work
yes,
doesn't speak for itself,
yes,
right? Your brand is only as good as what people perceive as its value.
right.
I like to say that your personal brand is the currency that you trade for influence,
Mm,
right? So the stronger your brand, the more influence you're going to have. And that's really what you're trying to do. You're trying to influence people, okay?
right,
As an entrepreneur, as a corporate professional, right? You're really building brand for influence.
right, right. And then communication and connection. Connection, well, that's a good one. That's a
Yeah.
good one. That's one, like you said, that some people don't know how to address.
Yeah,
Um,
so Lynette, like I can see it, I can see the wheels
yes,
turning like, oh, note to self, let me go review my
yes.
network. Right. So yeah, if there isn't there's one takeaway here around networking that I want to encourage the audience to do is to go, yeah, take a look at your network and take a look at, who is really helping you and who are hangers on. Who are the people who you haven't yet met who can help you? And how
Yeah,
can those people who are in your network get you connected to people who can continue to expand your horizons such that you are always meeting people who are in support of your business and in support
right.
of your business goals, in support of your career goals?
Right, great. Because that was my next question. When you talk about coaches, so how would someone starting out, especially in business, I meet so many solopreneurs who struggle with this. How do you connect yourself? And maybe you kind of just answer that, but how do you connect yourself with people who are in the space where they can coach you?
Yeah, I think that there are a couple things that you can do. Number one is, make sure that you are doing the other things right, right? That you
Gotcha.
are promoting a personal brand, that you are telling your story, that you are, cultivating a network, because that's how you find those advisors, those mentors, those
Gotcha.
sponsors who can help you, right?
Mm,
So that's, I think, one thing. The other thing is that what coaches will do for you is they will stretch you beyond where you think you will snap. And they will challenge you. And so you want to find those people who you can trust, who will give you good feedback, who will give you good advice, and not just, be your amen corner. Amen corners are great. That's your family,
Uh-huh.
right? I call up my mother for the amen, right? Like, oh, yeah, 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 girl, right on. That's fantastic. But you want encouragement, definitely, but you also want reality, and
Right.
reality is a good thing. And so I think that you can use your network in a way that will help you identify those people who can be good mentors and be good sponsors for you in your business. One of the things that I advocate for very strongly, especially with women, is to have a personal board of directors.
Hmm.
So, and the way that I build my personal board of directors is to have, again, like I was saying, those people who I call for, certain things, like people who
Right.
are expert on strategy, people who are expert on operation, people who are expert on finance, right? Someone who's a marketing expert. Because again, you as a business owner, especially if you're a solopreneur,
Yes.
man, you're doing a lot as it is already.
Right.
And yeah, and you got to get help where you can and stay sane when, because it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
It can absolutely be overwhelming. And so
Definitely.
have that personal board of directors of those experts who can advise you and consult with you when you have those issues that will inevitably come up. They come up all the time,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's for sure. And keep the circle tight. I'm a huge advocate of less is more when it comes to these kinds of things because
Uh-huh.
number one, we're all very busy.
Yeah.
You're running a business, you don't have time, you can't manage 20, 30 contacts,
Yeah.
right? You want to keep it tight. You want to keep it to a manageable, circle of people who you can be in contact with regularly
Uh-huh.
and who have the time themselves to be able to invest.
Right. Right. Wonderful. So when you think about all the stages you've gone through from being a career woman and senior management to an entrepreneur owning your restaurant to in the tech business with the building iPhone apps to now in this wonderful dream business that I just love. When you think about all of those different experiences, how would you say, what would you say was your personal growth in that process? What was something that challenged you to grow personally? Because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we can feel stuck and not realize that we're stuck because we have to grow to be able to handle that next level that we need to go to, right? We have to personally expand a skill set or expand it might not be a hard skill, maybe a soft skill. And maybe
Mhm.
learn how to public speak better, learn how to communicate with people better. So what personal growth experience have you had throughout your process?
You're going to
You
love
can
this.
share.
I learned to take better care of myself because I think that a lot of what we do, again, as women and especially as Black women, we give so much to other people. We're trying to take care of business across, numerous aspects of our lives, and we don't leave enough time for ourselves. And I learned, like I said, with that story about taking my mom to Miraval all those many
Yeah.
years ago, that's when I learned. And I had the conversation with my mother because my mother was like, you need to slow down or otherwise your body's going to slow you down.
Uh-huh.
And so she's like, yeah, get that. That was the epiphany for me. It was like I was in my 30s and I was stressed and I was going crazy with a restaurant business and with a corporate career and all kinds of struggles and challenges and just trying to make things work. And oh, and by the way, did I mention I'm married?
No, no, you didn't.
Yeah, yeah, actually I have a
No.
husband. And, yeah, but
Oh
I
yeah, I
know.
really did think you were
I did
single
almost an
doing
hour
all
into the
this.
conversation. Oh yeah, that girl's got a husband too to boot.
Yeah.
so yeah, so I was like, I needed to bring it back and understand that I needed to listen to my body's signals and listen to my brain,
Oh,
when
I
it's
love that.
time
Yes.
to take a step back and use that opportunity to recharge, re-energize, really take an opportunity to look at things differently,
Yes.
um, and not so much run the business, no, I'm sorry, not so much let the business run you. You run the
Right.
business, right?
Exactly.
And I think a lot of us get into this, letting the business run us. And, like, no, we need to run the business. And
Yeah.
sometimes we need to step away from that
Mm,
and take some time to let it breathe. I think that's a lot of it too, is that we get so caught up in, where's that next dollar coming from? Oh my God, look at these bills that are piling up, and oh my
right.
goodness, look at these commitments I've made, and look at, like, oh dear. And yeah, we got to step back from it. And try to gain a little more perspective so that you can deal with it. Because if you're just constantly pegged at 11, it's
Right.
you're going to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Quite literally, you will.
Literally, that's so true, so true. So I love that you found the space to take care of yourself and that was a personal growth area for us. I think a lot of us need to pay attention to that even more because to your point, we're so focused on the goals, we're focused on the profit, we're focused on making the sale, just getting
Yeah,
everything done that
yeah,
it can be overwhelming, you
yeah.
know.
It can be.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
So this has been so much fun.
This has been so delightful. I am so happy
Yes,
that we connected. So now you are part of my network.
yes, and you are definitely a part of mine. We will stay connected. So I just want to say thank you for coming to spend the time with us. And as we close out, I have four fun questions to ask you.
Oh,
And the
okay. So it's
first
like a
one,
rapid fire, whatever comes to my
yes,
mind. Okay. All right. I'm
yes.
ready. I'm ready.
Okay, the first one, let's see. What would you consider to be your superpower?
Seeing the potential in other people that they don't see in themselves.
I like
I
that.
tell people all the time, step into your greatness. You've got it. You know, take
You,
a risk.
no. You have been in my dreams. You have been in my dreams because I've been writing about that just about every day recently. Step into your
Yes.
greatness.
Step into
Find
your
out what your
greatness.
greatness thing is. Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
Wonderful.
absolutely.
If you could speak with anyone from any time in history, who would you choose to have a conversation with and why?
I would choose to have a conversation with Harriet Tubman.
I love that.
Yeah, I want to talk to the architect of the Underground Railroad because I want to talk to her about how she would be so amazed that, all these generations later, how amazing the Underground Railroad is as a brand.
Yes.
Right? From a
I
marketing
know.
perspective, isn't the Underground Railroad an amazing achievement in branding? That's what I would want to talk to her about. Like, don't you have any idea? Like, yeah, the Underground Railroad became a brand.
Yes, that is wonderful, wonderful. I just watched that movie again this past week and it
Yes,
was
I read
just
the
as
book
amazing.
that Colson
Yeah,
Whitehead wrote. Yes, it's such a great book.
it's amazing. It's
Yes,
amazing. So that's a great person to speak with from history.
yeah.
What was your favorite childhood game?
Favorite childhood game. Like a board game
Any game.
or any game? Oh, basketball. I played basketball for many years.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
nice. And the last question, if you could travel anywhere in the world, what would be your favorite place to go and why?
Oh, someplace new that I've never been, or any place.
Any place.
Any place. Oh, I love Italy.
Ah,
I've been there many times and it never gets old. The Italians have it dialed, and the Spanish are
wonderful.
right behind them. Oh my gosh.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Monique, thank you so much for being here with us today, gracing us with your presence, all your knowledge, wisdom, your tips. You gave us some very good gems. I'm excited about your latest business venture and looking
Yes.
forward to
Everybody come on down to Phoenix. Look a sister up.
exactly. Look her up. Try her out. Meet the
Yeah.
chef. And
That's right.
have,
Meet the chef.
yeah. So I want to wish you in all your business endeavors and in your personal life the best of joy, the best of health, and the best of wealth.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you.